Ethan Reed had worn 1,000 uniforms in his life: the polished suit of a boardroom, the disciplined green of command, and the heavy silence of a man who'd lost too much to war and ambition. But on the morning of his wedding, he wore hope. New York shimmered below the penthouse terrace where the ceremony would begin. Reporters waited outside, guests whispered about the rare smile on his face, and the woman he loved, Emilia Returns, was supposed to arrive any second. She never did. An hour later, Ethan stood under a half-collapsed arch of roses as rain started to fall. The string quartet packed up quietly. Cameras clicked. Headlines would follow. The billionaire soldier left at the altar. He dismissed everyone, stripped off the boutonniere, and disappeared into his black car without a word. For weeks he buried himself in military projects and corporate takeovers. But success, once his armor, felt like ash. His nights were filled with the same question: why? 3 months later, a convoy accident on a humanitarian visit in Afghanistan nearly killed him. His bodyguards dragged him from the wreckage. Shrapnel pierced his side. He remembered only the taste of dust and the blur of red lights before he passed out. When he opened his eyes again, he wasn't in a combat zone. He was in a hospital in New York. A voice was humming softly near his bed, gentle and untrained. "You're awake," it said. He turned his head. A young nurse stood there, eyes bright behind tired lashes. Her name tag read Lena Hart. "You were lucky," she said with a shy smile. "A few more minutes and luck might have run out." "Where am I?" "St. Matthew's. You've been out for 2 days." He tried to sit up. Pain forced him back. She steadied him without hesitation. He noticed her hands, small, steady, scarred on one knuckle. Not soft hands, but hands that knew how to save someone. Days passed. Lena became the only face he trusted in that sterile room. She treated him like a man, not a billionaire or a headline. She joked, sometimes clumsily. She read to him when sleep refused to come. And every time she walked out, silence pressed heavier. One night, unable to sleep, he asked, "Do you always stay this late?" She shrugged. "Only for stubborn patients who pretend they don't feel pain." He smiled faintly. "Then I suppose you'll be here a while." Their laughter softened the walls between them. When he was finally discharged, Ethan offered her a blank check. "Name it. Tuition. House. Anything. You kept me alive." She shook her head. "I don't take payment for doing my job. Just promise you'll actually live." He left the hospital but couldn't shake her voice. "Just promise you'll actually live." Weeks later he found himself driving back, under the pretext of donating to the hospital's veterans wing. She was there, adjusting a child's fur line, hair tied loosely, unaware of him watching. "Back again, Mr. Reed," she teased when she noticed him. "Ethan," he corrected. "And yes, I figured it's time to keep my promise." Ethan didn't know why he kept finding reasons to visit the hospital. A donation here, a meeting there, always time so that he might see her for a few stolen minutes. Lena was different from anyone he had met in years. She didn't know how to flatter. She listened. Sometimes she challenged him outright, and somehow that felt like sunlight after a long winter. One evening, after a charity board session at the hospital, she caught him lingering by the ward window. "You know," she said, "you don't need an excuse to stop by." He smiled, a little embarrassed. "Then what would I say if I didn't have one?" "Try hello. It usually works." That was how it began, quietly, almost accidentally. They started meeting outside the hospital, first for coffee, then long walks through Central Park. She learned he was born into money but had earned his military stars himself. He learned that she came from nothing and had built her life with sheer endurance. One night, as they stood by the East River, she asked, "Do you ever think about the woman you were supposed to marry?" He hesitated. "Every day. But less with pain now. More with confusion." "What happened?" "I don't know. No call, no letter. Just silence." Lena looked out at the dark water. Sometimes silence is the only way people know how to say they're hurting. Something in her tone made him glance sideways, but she said nothing more. The weeks turned into months, and Ethan's world began to look alive again. He started laughing with his team, stopped measuring every minute, even returned to painting, something he hadn't done since before the army. He painted her once, without telling her, from memory, the way she looked when she listened. But happiness, he had learned, was never simple. One morning, as he waited for Lena outside the hospital, a familiar car pulled up. From it stepped Emilia, the woman who had vanished. She looked thinner, more fragile, her voice uncertain. "Ethan." He froze. "Emilia. I needed to see you. I was sick, cancer. I didn't want you to see me like that. I left because I thought it would be easier to forget me." His heart twisted. All those months of anger melted into confusion and pity. "You could have told me. I thought I was dying." She reached for his hand. "Now I'm in remission. And I miss us." Before he could answer, Lena came out of the hospital doors, smiling, unaware. She stopped mid-step when she saw Emilia. The air tightened. Emilia turned to her. "You must be the nurse who took care of him." "Thank you." Lena nodded politely. "Just doing my job." Emilia left soon after, but her reappearance stirred everything Ethan thought he had settled. That night he couldn't sleep. When he saw Lena the next day, she was distant. "She came back," Lena said quietly. "Yes." "And what do you want to do?" "I don't know." She forced a smile. "Then maybe it's time you find out." He wanted to protest, but she was already walking away. The following weeks felt like the replay of an old life he no longer wanted. Emilia visited often. The press caught wind of her return. Yet every time he looked at her, he saw the ghost of what they used to be. Every time he thought of Lena, he felt the pulse of what could still become. One evening he found Lena in the hospital garden, watering the plants she tended for her patients. "Lena, I never asked for any of this. I don't even know what I'm supposed to feel." "You don't have to explain," she said. "Some people come back to test if our hearts are still broken. Maybe that's what she's doing." He took a step closer. "And what if my heart's not broken anymore?" "Then prove it, by choosing what makes it whole." Days passed, but Ethan couldn't shake Lena's words. "Prove it by choosing what makes it whole." They echoed through every meeting, every quiet drive through the city. He had everything money could buy, and yet, peace wasn't one of them. One evening, his driver slowed near a small street market in Queens. There, among noodle stalls and laughter, he spotted her, Lena, laughing with a group of elderly patients from her ward. She wore simple clothes, her hair tied up, her smile brighter than the neon lights above her. Without thinking, he stepped out and walked toward her. The crowd parted slightly. Some recognized the billionaire from television. Lena looked up in surprise. "Ethan, what are you doing here?" "I was passing by. Or maybe I wasn't." She smiled faintly. "You don't look like someone who passes by noodle stalls." "Maybe I'm trying to learn." They shared a table, bowls steaming between them. Around them, families talked, children laughed, a few street performers played soft music. It was so ordinary it felt unreal to him. "You like this?" he asked. "I love it," she said. "Because here, everyone's the same. Rich, poor, famous, invisible, all just hungry people sharing food." He nodded, watching how naturally she blended into the crowd. "Lena," he said quietly, "I need to understand something. You talk about pain as if you've lived too much of it." She hesitated. "Because I have." She told him then, about her childhood in foster homes, about a brother who'd fallen into addiction, about the night she almost gave up and the stranger who pulled her off a bridge and told her she was worth saving. That's when she decided to become a nurse. "I made a promise," she said. That I'd be the person who stays when others walk away. He swallowed hard. That's why you stayed with me. She looked down. I didn't stay for Judy, Ethan. I stayed because I saw the man behind the silence. The words lingered between them, heavy and beautiful. He wanted to say something back, something true, but before he could, a call came through on his phone. Emilia. Again. He didn't answer. Later that night, when Lena stood to leave, he caught her hand. Stay a little longer. She hesitated, then said softly, Don't ask me to stay unless you're sure you're not still waiting for her. He didn't sleep that night. He went through the old letters, the photographs, the wedding shoot still hanging untouched. For the first time, he realized Emilia belonged to a version of himself that no longer existed. The man who lived by control, not by heart. At dawn, he drove to the hospital. The city was still waking up. Lena was there, walking into her shift. He stopped her at the entrance. Lena, I'm done running from what I feel. You asked me to choose what makes me whole. It's you. Her eyes widened. Ethan. He stepped closer. I don't want perfect. I don't want old promises. I want something real, even if it scares me. She smiled, tears glimmering. Then you better mean that, soldier. He laughed softly. For once, I do. And right there, in the middle of the hospital courtyard, he kissed her, not the kind of kiss that makes headlines, but the kind that makes time stop. 4 weeks after, the tabloids buzzed again, the billionaire and the nurse. He didn't care. For the first time in years, his life wasn't about image, power, or control. It was about peace, the kind that feels like home. At a quiet event months later, the foundation they started together opened its first medical outreach in the same Queens district where they'd shared noodles. Cameras flashed, speeches rolled, but when he looked at her, it was simple again. She squeezed his hand. You know what's funny? What? You had to be left at the altar to find real love. He smiled. Maybe some heartbreaks are just detours to where you truly belong. And as the crowd applauded around them, Ethan finally knew. Love wasn't what you planned. It was what found you when you stopped pretending you weren't broken. 1 year later, New York spring air carried the soft hum of violins and distant laughter. The gardens of the Wolfe Foundation shimmered under white petals and golden lights. Guests whispered, reporters watched, but this time the story wasn't about money or mystery. It was about a man who finally learned to live. Ethan Wolfe stood beneath an arch of roses, wearing a simple suit, no extravagance, no armor. Across the aisle, Lena Hart walked slowly toward him, her dress flowing like sunlight on water. Every step she took was a memory healed, of pain, of patience, of love that refused to give up. When she reached him, Ethan exhaled. You sure you still want to marry a man who once thought feelings were weaknesses? Lena smiled. I'm marrying the man who proved that strength can be gentle. The crowd faded. The world seemed to hush. Their vows weren't scripted. He said, You saved me, not by pulling me out of war, but by teaching me peace. She said, You taught me that love isn't about fixing someone. It's about walking beside them while they heal. They exchanged rings. The applause came like a wave. Somewhere in the back, Emilia watched quietly, her expression not bitter but soft, as if she too understood that sometimes letting go is its own kind of love. After the ceremony, the newlyweds joined the crowd at a small noodle stall set up in the garden, a tribute to where their story had begun. The smell of broth and laughter filled the air. Billionaires, doctors, nurses, and locals all sat side by side, chopsticks clinking against bowls. No titles, no distance, just people. Lena looked at Ethan as he tasted the noodles. He grinned. Still the best thing I've ever had. She laughed. Careful, that's what you said the first night you met me. He leaned closer. Then I was right twice. Cameras caught their laughter, but the moment wasn't for headlines. It was for them. two people who found grace in imperfection and beauty in second chances. Later that night, when the guests had gone and the garden lights dimmed, Ethan stood holding Lena's hand beneath the city skyline. He whispered, "You know, I used to think happiness was something you earned after conquering the world." She looked at him gently. "And now?" He smiled. "Now I know it's just sitting here, next to the one person who makes the world quiet." They stayed like that, no grand gestures, no fireworks, just peace. The kind that comes after storms, the kind that stays. Sometimes love doesn't arrive dressed in perfection. Sometimes it comes broken, bruised, and unexpected, like a soldier learning to feel again, or a nurse who believed in hope too much to walk away. And if this story touched your heart, remember, love might be waiting where you least expect it. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Mr. Reality Stories for more journeys that remind us, healing starts where love begins.